Well, with some midweek games coming up, welcome to DJ Living's Fantasy Premier League. Hi folks, welcome back again. It looks like I made a bit of a boo-boo this week because there's midweek games. I am filming this on the Wednesday. 2 games already played on the Tuesday night, which will show in the league that I'm going to put up. So obviously I'm still top at the moment at 662 points. Adam Anderson is pushed into second place because he's got 21 points on them 2 Tuesday games, 641. Then Gary Britton and Andrew Wright both only got 2 points so far, but obviously not necessarily had players play last night, so it's a bit of an odd league at the moment. And apologies to whoever got the highest score last week because I missed it. So like I say, you'll see where you are in the league at the moment following the Tuesday games, and there's a Wednesday and Thursday games as well to follow. So we'll see you are going into the weekend fixtures. Alright, first though, let's look back at last weekend's fixtures, and the biggest surprise obviously was the Man City 0, Liverpool 1. That was a bit of a shock. I didn't see Man City losing this season, if I'm honest here, the way they were playing, especially at Liverpool, who are not playing well at all. By all accounts, Joe Gomez had an absolutely fantastic game. So, you know, if you're a Liverpool fan, Joe Gomez, I don't think he's that expensive, so maybe you can put him in. So let's look at the other results. So we've got Brentford had a 2-0 victory over Brighton. Leicester finished 0-0 against Palace. Fulham 2, Bournemouth 2. Southampton and West Ham were a 1-1 draw. Wolves pipped Forest 1-0, which is a bit of a surprise to me. I picked Forest for that game. Spurs won 2-0 against Everton. Aston Villa 0, Chelsea 2. Putting a bit more pressure on Steven Gerrard there. Leeds 0, Arsenal 1. Surprised they only got 1 at Arsenal. I picked them. I thought they'd get 2 or 3 goals in that game. Man United Newcastle were fought out a 0-0 draw, and then the Liverpool 1 Man City 0 game. So looking at last week's fixtures, there was only 15 goals scored in the week in the whole 10 games, which is the worst so far this season, although that does create 10 clean sheets, which is obviously the best we've had so far this season. Let's look at the 4 players that I picked last week to look at. So we'll start off in goal with Henderson. He managed 2 points. Forest did lose 1-0, but he did manage the 2 points, so it wasn't too bad. Connor Cody only managed 1 point against Tottenham, but I still think he's a good shout for your further squads because he's a cheap defender, and Everton do defend quite well. Midfield we had Andreas for Fulham. He managed 5 points in that game, so that wasn't too bad. And then my striker I picked, probably not exactly a surprise pick, but even Tony I recommended for this game. He managed to score 2 goals in the 2-0 win, and he managed to get himself 3 bonus points for a 12-point score. So not as bad as last week. Top players at the moment, there's not going to be too much shuffling around. Haaland, 104 points. Obviously he didn't score this week for a change, so only 104 points. Harry Kane, 72 points. Tony 65, pulled himself up a bit. Foden 64, Saka and Cancelo on 63, with De Bruyne on 61. So we start off in goal with Salah from Wolves, 14 points. Cracking result there against the Forest team. Obviously picked the wrong goalkeeper in that one. Then we've got in defence, we've got Diop from Fulham, managed 9 points, even though they conceded 2 goals. And then Dalot from Manchester United on 9 points as well. Then we've got, I think there was about 6 or 7 players on 8 points. 2 lowest priced players were Ward from Palace of 4.5 million on 8 points, and Peru, I hope I'm saying that right, 4.4 million from Southampton, both on 8 points. Midfield now, we've got Mason Mount. He managed to get some points at last. He's not had a good start to the season, but he did get some points in this one, 15 points. Declan Rice managed 10 points for West Ham in their 1-1 draw. And lastly in midfield was Neves from Wolves with 10 points. The front 3, no surprise, Tony was one of them on 12 points, but Solanke also got 12 points in Bournemouth's 2-2 draw. And then Kane managed 9 points to be the third striker for the finishing place at Team of the Week. Right, folks, so looking at the fixtures, I'm going to have a quick rundown of the fixtures that are midweek. So we've got the two that have already been played, and then the following ones that are being played right at this moment, and then there's a couple tomorrow night as well. So we'll kick off with Brighton, Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace against Wolves. We know that Palace beat Wolves, I think it was 2-1, and Brighton against Forest ended in a 0-0 draw. So that's another 2 clean sheets already on the board. Right, next up we're looking at Bournemouth Southampton. Should be a pretty boring game in my opinion. Brentford Chelsea, that could be an interesting one because Tony has been linked to Chelsea, so we'll see what happens in that game. Liverpool West Ham, can Liverpool continue after that victory against Man City and push on and get another win? Newcastle Everton come up next. Newcastle are on fire at the moment. They did only get the 0-0 draw last week, but they're in the top 6 at the moment, I think. Everton are a team that are they're not conceding many goals, but they're not picking up the wins. They're getting a lot of draws at the moment, so we'll see how that game pans out. Manchester United Spurs, hoping for the Spurs win. You never know what Man United's going to turn up, so it could go either way. Fulham v Aston Villa. I'm expecting Fulham to perform in this game and get another win, although I would like Steven Gerrard to keep his position. And then Leicester Leeds, another interesting game. 2 teams that are struggling at the moment, so we'll see what happens with these results. Right, the 4 players I've got to watch this week. It's a bit of a... I started off with goalkeeper as Sarr, Wolves, against Crystal Palace. Didn't expect Palace to score 2 goals past him, so didn't start off too well with that one. And then I'm looking in defence. I've got Shah from Newcastle, 4.8 million. Newcastle doing quite well at the moment, as I say, and they have got home to Everton. Can't see Everton scoring many goals past Newcastle, so he's my defender. Also, Newcastle at the moment have got the best defensive record in the league, with only 9 goals conceded in them first 10 games. And then looking in midfield, I've got Harvey Barnes, 6.9 million. I think he was over 8 million at the start of the season. Not had a great run. Obviously started the season off with quite an injury, so he's starting to play a few games now, but they're home to Leeds, 6.9 million. Harvey Barnes, not a bad deal. And up front, Mitrovic, I've had him in my team, in or around my team all season. Obviously, he's been out for the last few weeks, played last week, and he is back with a goal last week as well. And he's home to Villa, so he's my forwards. That's my 4 players to watch. So that's the midweek roundup. Now looking at next weekend's fixtures, or this coming weekend's fixtures. We start off with Nottingham Forest, Liverpool. I'm just going to run through quickly. Everton, Crystal Palace, Man City, Brighton, Chelsea, Manchester United, Aston Villa, Brentford, Leeds, Fulham, Southampton, Arsenal, Wolves, Leicester, Spurs, Newcastle, West Ham, Bournemouth to finish the weekend's fixtures off. The 4 players I've got to watch in these games, starting off with Fabianski in goal, 5 million, so not exactly a cheap goalkeeper, but he's well priced for a goalkeeper. Obviously West Ham are home to Bournemouth, don't score many goals, and West Ham have got a reasonably good defensive record. Next I've got Ben White in defence. He's a bit of an unsung hero this year, I think, for Arsenal. He's filled in a lot of right back this season, and he's done a good job there. He's played pretty much every game, and he's only 4.5 million, and they're away to Southampton, so I've put him as my pick to watch this week in defence. Midfield, Ruben Neves, Wolves player, probably Wolves' best player, but he's only 5.5 million as a midfielder, which isn't too badly at all. They're at home to Leicester. And then up front I've got, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Skamaka for West Ham, 6.8 million, home to Bournemouth. So let's see how those 4 players do at the weekend. Done thing of the week. Done week switches. Right folks, that's just a quick rundown of last week's fixtures and a look at the fixtures that are being played, and by the time you watch this they would have been played already. But a quick look at them fixtures and the weekend's fixtures as well. Let's see how everyone does in the league this week. Hope you have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take care.